What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with my week NFL power rankings. And you can see here the biggest movers, obviously the Saints moving up after a huge win in Dallas, and then the Dolphins going down because of Tua's injury. But we'll jump in. We got 32 through 29, and Panthers and Giants, obviously your two worst teams. Bad performances. Giants, they scored 3 touchdowns and lost this game by 3, where the Commanders just, took over and didn't score a touchdown and won that game. Panthers turning to Andy Dalton. I don't like that decision. Bryce Young is not the problem. It's no receive. Well, I don't want to say he doesn't have receivers, but he has no time to throw. The offensive line is awful. The running game is not there because, they're going to have to pass because the defense is bad. So Bryce Young in a bad spot. I could see him getting traded maybe even early this year to somewhere. Broncos, unfortunate game them against the Steelers. They hung with them, but just couldn't pull it out in the end. They looked to get their first win against the Bucks, and then got the Titans at home against the Packers. Maybe without Jordan Love again, probably. So that'd be a good game for them to win to get into the win column. But Will Levis has to stop committing those dumb turnovers in the red zone. 28 through 25. You got the Patriots and Jags and the Bears, all with losses last week. Patriots in a heartbreaker in overtime against the Seahawks, which could have been a huge win for them. To be 2-0, I don't think anyone would have predicted that. But they go into New York this week in a big game against the Jets early on. That impacts the division standings a lot. Jaguars 0-2. I think that's a big shock to a lot of people. Now they face Buffalo in Buffalo. I think they're going to give them a game, that's for sure. Not saying they're going to win, but I think it will be a good game. Tough loss in Houston on Sunday Night Football. Caleb Williams didn't really show up in this one. Hopefully, he has a rebound game against the Colts. Then you got the Commanders. Jaden Daniels gets his first win at home against the Giants. Yeah, it only means so much. But now they get the Bengals, and I think the Bengals must-win game for them. And the Commanders, if they want to prove that they are a real team, they got to go and beat Cincinnati. 24 through 21, you got the Colts, Dolphins, Browns, and Rams all suffering. Well, sorry, 3 of the 4 suffering losses last week with the Browns beating the Jaguars, but wasn't that big of a win considering how they've been playing so far this year. Obviously, the biggest blow here, Dolphins losing Tua. They put him on IR, so he's out until at least week 7, could return week 8. But this Dolphins team is going to be adventurous, to say the least, to watch these next few weeks. The quarterback situation and the running game, everything considered, is going to be a huge question mark. Colts struggling out of the gates. Anthony Richardson had a good game week 1, struggled week 2. Hopefully he can rebound against the Bears. Then you got the Rams. Wow, this team just took a U-turn pretty fast, losing to the Cardinals by 31. I mean, I picked the Cardinals to win, but by 31 is pretty crazy considering how good the Rams are on offensive talent. But that's what happens when Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and half your offensive line get hurt. 20 through 17. And you got the team that suffered a loss here in the Bengals at 20. Tough one against the Chiefs with the late pass interference or whatever it was, intruding the receiver's path to the ball, which was a good call. But the case is to be made, if it was a receiver doing that to a defender, would that get called? Probably not. So I think they need to look at those kind of things. They get the Commanders this week. Raiders, Falcons, Cardinals all get wins. And the Raiders and Falcons surprising wins. The Raiders come from behind, win that one. Falcons do the same thing, except in the last minute of the game. And the Cardinals blowing out the Rams. Big story there. Kyler Murray looking like he is going to be very good this year after that home showing. Let's see if he can have a repeat performance against the Lions. 16 through 13, Jets fall after an ugly win against the Titans in Tennessee. Cowboys' ugly loss to the Saints at home, and they're dropping out of the top 3, even top 10 altogether. Stay barely in the top half. Eagles, after that heartbreaking loss, that was more of a coaching loss than a Saquon Barkley drop loss. Questionable decision making late down the stretch for the Eagles cost them that game. Then my Packers getting a win at home even without Jordan Love, and that's a huge win for them because if they can win any games even without Love, a win is a win, especially at this point in the season. But Malik Willis, Jordan Love, whoever it is, week 3 should be a good game for the Packers. Eagles, same thing. They need a win in New Orleans. Maybe they can silence the New Orleans haters or the naysayers. And Cowboys, Ravens, week 3, 1-1 versus 0-2. I don't think anyone would have predicted that. And then the Jets, easier game versus the Patriots on Thursday Night Football. 12 through 9. You have the Ravens at 0 and 2, shocking. The Lions at 1 and 1, and the Niners at 1 and 1. And then you got the Steelers at 2 and 0, coming in at 9. And that defense has been great for the Steelers. That's why they're moving in the top 10. Offense, sluggish, but I think Justin Fields, if they decide to move with him as the starter, I think this offense can start to get a click and really be better and pretty explosive because we know what Fields can do when he plays really good. They just need to give him some time. Niners struggle without, losing Debo. The Vikings are going to be pretty solid, it looks like, this year with Sam Darnold. They get the Rams this week in a big game. And the Lions suffering the home loss to the Bucks, which I don't want to say nobody expected, but it definitely came as a surprise to a lot. Just because how good the Lions were week one, getting that overtime victory against the Rams, and then coming out playing good, but just kind of blew it at the end. Not blew it, but really just gave it away. They get the Cardinals in Arizona, which would be a good high scoring game, I believe. Then the Ravens, like I said, Cowboys on the road, must win game, it feels like, for both of those teams because nobody wants to start 1 and 2 if you're Dallas or 0 and 3 if you're the Ravens because 0 and 3 is hard to come back from to make the playoffs. 8 through 5, and you have the Seahawks, Saints, Vikings, and Chargers, and nobody, I repeat, nobody had three of these four teams at least in their top 10 after week two until now. Seahawks, Saints, Vikings, especially. Vikings are playing awesome with Sam Darnold. Their running game with Aaron Jones is looking good. New Orleans Saints still missing Kendre Miller, the running back that's going to be the explosive side piece to Alvin Kamara. And this Derek Carr led Saints team this year is looking awesome. A lot of people were calling for his headlight last year because he was struggling, but now they're doing really well. We'll see how they do again this week against the Eagles. Let's see if it's just a two-game fluke or if this is going to be a trend for the rest of the year. Then the Seahawks, man, their defense is high flying, really good, and their offense has been doing just enough to get them by. They get the Dolphins this week in which probably wouldn't have been an easy game, but now with Tua out, it should be a much not easier game plan, but definitely limiting their talent on offense. 4 through 1, I think this is probably what a lot of people have right now in this order even. Chiefs, Bills, Texans, Bucks. Obviously the Chiefs at 1, they were my preseason number 1, and they're staying there. Big win at home against the Bengals with some help, not from the officials, but some bad decision making by the Bengals. They get the Falcons this week in Atlanta. I think that'll be a good game. You get the Falcons coming off their first win. The Bills, not a beatdown of the Dolphins, but really just dominated them after Tua got hurt and the game was kind of over at that point. And they get the Jaguars this week. Big game for both these teams. Maybe the Bills stay undefeated. Jaguars could go 0-3, or it could be 2-1 for the Bills and give them their first loss. So no one wants to do that. Obviously, Buffalo wants to win for the home fans against the Jaguars team that's really looking for a win. Then you have the Texans at 3, a sluggish win, but a win is a win, especially like I said early this year. Any win is a good win in the NFL, considering you only play 17 games. With the Texans meeting Minnesota this week in Minnesota, I think that's going to be another high scoring game. I know the defenses have been great so far, but these offenses are just ready to explode, and I can see that happening in week 3. Then you have the Bucks. I think they're just going to take it to the Broncos, probably put up like 27. Maybe the Broncos score 10, but I think a big win there out in Tampa, and they might be 3-0, and who knows, maybe the Bucks are going to be the number one team next week if all three of these teams suffer losses. Not saying that's happening, but the Bucks have looked really good, and as long as Baker is healthy, this team is going to be very good. That's going to be it for my power rankings this week. Check back next week to see where your favorite team ranks. But until the next time, the Bench Buddies are out.